All right, cool. My name's Sick Codes. You might have seen some other stuff before, but today I'm going to be talking about solar systems, in particular solar system cybersecurity and the impact that it has on the power grid, which is a pretty important part of the everything, right? Just a quick disclaimer. Is the audio okay? Yeah, sick. All right. Yeah, it's an educational talk. I'm not affiliated with anyone in this talk. And it's all good faith, strictly good faith, no bad faith hacking here. And everything, nothing represents my current beliefs, knock on wood, or future, etc. And everything's Creative Commons Zero. Anything else belongs to the people that own that stuff. So there's all my socials. You can see me on like GitHub, Twitter, LinkedIn, my website. I do trainings and stuff, penetration testing, mainly for hardware. So this talk is suitable for anyone who uses electricity. So if you raise your hand, yeah, sweet. Well, I saw some that didn't have their hand up, so I hope you find this useful. And what am I? So I am what they call good faith hacker. I follow all the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Oh, I forgot the second A, but it's not good. I follow all those laws to the letter, and I'm just a messenger. You know, I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the I'm not the state threat actor and all that sort of stuff. But I might be just like the town crier, just like yelling into the night. And what I'm not, like I said, I'm not the threat actor, and I wouldn't consider myself a massive expert. And today's session is not a lecture, but more of a read between the lines session where you sort of extrapolate on what I'm thinking about, and I'll kind of remind you when we're talking about that sort of stuff. And it's not overly technical as well, so it should be pretty funny. So who knows what this is? Oh, wow. Yeah, so this is a ripple control receiver. Does anyone know what that means now that I've said it? I literally can't see a single hand. Oh, wow. Yeah, so this is a ripple control receiver. That's cool. It sits in your power box. I don't know what you guys call it. It's like a power board, meter board. Anyway, it sits in your power board and waits for commands or instructions from the grid. So the grid's usually going like this. It's like a 60 hertz or 50 hertz or something like that. AC power, right? You know, up and down. And the ripple's this little jagged bit that you can kind of see. And that's actually sent out by a machine that sends it out to say, something's happening, right? And the ripples can be between 30 or 180 seconds long, right? And actually they're human audible. So you may even feel them, you may be able to sense them in some sort of aspect. This is the machine that generates it. It's called a ripple control transmitter. If you got one of these, it should be pretty sweet. There's one there as well. That's the newer one. It's a bit more condensed, right? And if you're feeling pretty, what's the word for it? If you're feeling pretty naughty, you can load that one up. It's in a container, so you can chuck it in the back of a truck and then drive around with it, hook up to the grid, send out some impulses, ripples, and then run off. It actually shuts down the grid until it receives a new signal. So when you send out a ripple, it's like, it turns off and then another command comes through. And sometimes the grids can interfere with each other, so they like to send out multiple commands. And sometimes they do interfere. But yeah, that's pretty hardcore stuff. Like, no one has enough money for one of those ripple control receivers, right? Or inducers or transmitters. So why don't you just hook up to it with TCP/IP, sorry. Obviously they're network connected. Obviously they've got terrible, actually haven't hacked one yet. So it's just, up to 400,000 volts or kVA. So there'll be something to hack there. But what else is connected to the internet on the power grid? The answer is solar. So solar is connected, right? So similar to the ripple control inducer, transmitter, whatever you want to call it, there is solar connected to the grid. And last year, almost half of all new power generational capacity added to the grid, like new plants, new nuclear, whatever, almost half was solar. Who looks after solar? So who's got solar? Oh, wow, cool. Oh, this would be really relevant then. Who's got monitoring on their solar? Sweet. So yeah, who looks after solar? The household owner, right? The person who buys the solar is supposed to be looking after it. Possibly energy.gov wants a bit of a say in it, obviously, because it's connected to the grid and it's going into the grid, so you're generating power, so they want to know about it. There's this office here called CESER, or CESER, C-E-S-E-R, security, yeah, the things there. It's a long one. NERC, NRCC, CISA, CISA, or CISA, whichever way you want to say it. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So why is this interesting? Well, it's funny because if you think about it, instead of energy.gov looking after the grid, it's now in the hands of regular household owners. And they are now the guardians of the grid, right? And this is the general family protecting their home. This is actually, I just Googled prepper family. It comes with survival-mastery.com, so yeah, it's funny. So what does the OG grid look like? The OG grid looks like this. You've got some massive parts. Obviously, it transcends into Canada. It's practically, it's the whole of North America. And if you want to quickly name them, they're pretty logical names. W for West, M for Midwest, T for Texas, and so on and so forth. And just for completeness, because some people will probably download these slides later to study them for some reason, but there's some of the other ones in there. So this is the office that I just talked about, CESER, and they sort of manage the risk involved with this. And there's some cool resources you can read from their stuff. So clearly, securing the grid is a distributed grid. So what is a distributed grid? A distributed grid is your old method of power, which is, power plants, gets sent out, inverted, whatever, comes out to houses, and maybe a couple of people have solar, right? The future grid is like a decentralized version, like a Bitcoin for bloody, for grid, right? Everyone's got an electric car, just sucking up power, but they're all generating power, so it's kind of okay, and then it's like a big perpetuating cycle. However, what happens when the power goes out? So the other term for that is what happens when the grid supply drops. And I've got an accurate depiction of what exactly happens here. Maybe not house fires, but the concept is there. So I took it to Google, said, what happens, not ChatGPT yet, I said, what happens if you can't charge your Tesla on Google? This is hilarious, by the way. It says, I didn't highlight that, by the way. It goes, the car will stop. That's 30 million results. And if you go to Tesla's website, so it says vehicle charging during a power outage. And they've got an actual image there. It's pretty hard to see, but there's a grid, a power wall, which is the Tesla battery, if you're not unaware, the car and the home, and the solar on the roof. So if you don't have a solar, electric car, and a power wall, it's you and the grid. So if the grid supply drops, your supply drops. But you don't have to worry about charging your Tesla because you don't have one. What about electric planes? I didn't even know these were real, but apparently electric aviation is arriving and it's a priority. And it would be weird if it wasn't a priority, I'll tell you that. I'm not ready for that either. But yeah, so distributed energy resource, cybersecurity framework best practices. I found this cool study recently as well. And I went on it. I'm like, I wonder what they're saying about distributed energy grids, such as solar grids. How are they going to protect them? And they've got all this stuff here. It looks like they've just ripped it straight out of like an ISO standard. Situational awareness. This one's even better. Okay, you need a force protection personnel, access control personnel, OT, IT, DER. Oh, that's already there. Yeah, system admin. By the way, that's for every household because it's distributed, right? So everyone would have to go hiring like 60 people, right? Crazy. So if anyone's looking for a job. But yeah, what really happens when the power goes out? Like, what's the genuine effect? And we've got some examples, like electric cars stop charging. We've heard about that one. Water stops pumping. So if you're unaware, I live in Thailand, funnily enough. I'm Australian, obviously. But we use electric pumps. And like if the power goes out, the water stops moving. It's kind of annoying, right? Refrigeration motors stop. Things stop to cool. Likewise, air conditioners, same thing, compressor motors, they also stop. So things start to heat up. Obviously, data centers die, goodbye RAID arrays, things like that. Cashless payments stop. So, there's no more cash, whatever it's called, Apple Pay. And ready.gov recommends that you throw away any food that's been exposed to temperatures of 40 degrees or higher for 2 or more years, which is 2 or more hours. If you're eating food from 2 years ago, there's something wrong. So, what about catastrophic failure, right? What happens with catastrophic failure? This is an example of catastrophic failure. So that's a whole solar farm. If we calculate roughly that every panel on that farm is probably like 200 to 300 watts, okay? So like half of a PC. Every 4 or 5 panels, you get a kilowatt. And then there's probably like, 1,000 kilowatts there, so it's a megawatt, 2 megawatts. That's a lot of power. There's a couple of hundred homes that are outside of that have to get power from elsewhere. So coal, fire, gas, diesel, all sorts of things. That was one, I believe, in, don't know, it's in there somewhere. But that's obviously destroyed. Rooftop ones. Snow damaged, that's a 30 megawatt system. Well, sorry, that's a 30 megawatt cumulative amount of systems from Japan. And this is Alamo 2, Texas. Retail car shortage or something else. Alamo 2, Texas. And believe it or not, to actually fix this whole system, they actually replaced the entire thing. So, yeah, seems a bit sus, right? But, you know, it's actually more efficient to replace the whole thing. And we'll tell you about that, about why that is shortly. Another study there. And there's a cool tool called the FEMA Risk Tool. And this tool tells you what you're at risk of. And by the way, they actually updated the tool yesterday. So some of these graphs are actually a little bit inaccurate. So if you live anywhere around here, you're susceptible to avalanches, which would do serious damage, obviously, to, well, you know, it's relative, but coastal flooding, which would obviously combat solar. You know, if the solar panel's right near the water, then obviously they would be flooded. Earthquakes, high impact. You know, they're pretty destructive on solar panels because they tear the glass. Hail has a medium to high impact, and we'll see some stuff about, the Alamo one that I showed you earlier, that was pure hail damage. Heat waves, which is actually not too bad for solar, although electricity and heat don't mix very well, unless you have cooling. The sun's pretty sweet, you know. That's what solar does, right? Hurricanes, obviously severely damaging, strong winds as well. But, you know, is solar really a big enough energy source to actually care about any of these sort of threat models from Mother Nature? And the answer is kind of not really, depending on which part of the country you're in, but it's 2.8% US-wide. And if we look here, it's actually on the up and up. That's the green bar. It's sort of getting bigger, right? And this graph here goes to 2016. It's sort of peaking. I think it's must be way higher than that now, but, you know, USA-wide, it may only be 2.8%. However, it's significantly higher in some places. And also capacity, which that might not be referencing the 2.8%, but capacity is not actually equal actual usage. So I'll give you an example of a place that uses a lot of solar, which is Hawaii. So Hawaii relies or provided or used, I don't know which one it is, but it's one or the other. 70% of their power was created with, used from small customer-sided solar power generation, so, you know, the distributed energy model that we're talking about. And it's actually the 10th highest in the state. But I'm not sure if that's 10th highest by percentage or 10th highest generational overall, but yeah, it's relative. So let's take a look at the Hawaii airport. So we're going to zoom in because that's quite small. But there's sort of blue squares everywhere, right? We'll zoom in a bit. That's what they look like. These are panels. These are solar panels. And you'll see them if you go on to Google Maps, Bing, or OpenStreetMaps, or whatever you can use to satellite view satellite imagery, you'll start to see panels everywhere. In particular, California, all over Australia. I think we have 30% of households in Australia have solar. Yeah, but like here's an example. I tried to find really public places for this talk because it's kind of sus. Because Google provides basically a one-to-one map of places you can attack to destroy solar infrastructure, right? Because you can see it from the air. And someone could do a really cool really cool AI-backed study at one stage. I think they could just, assay all of the images or whatever. Some people have done some Google images searches Google Map stuff before, based on panel brands, designs, and the size of the panel or the design of the panel. For example, these panels here are like this, east-west panels, right? Zigzagging. And you can tell because there's a dark side and there's a lighter side. and the east-west. So the sun goes over, and as obviously I think it's east to west, I don't know, someone will correct me, because I'm from Australia, so everything's reversed. So as the sun rises, hits one part of the panel, and then as it goes over, hits the other side. So you got power throughout the whole day. I'll give you another example. That's the older style of arrangement of panels, right? So the older style is to have it like that. But panels are so good now that the actual space is more the limiting factor. So you want to sort of optimize for space. The darker the panel is these days, the more higher efficiency the panel has, because it's more concentrated silicon. That means they're newer panels, and newer panels are going to have Wi-Fi and shit. So you can start to see where I'm getting at, right? So if you can identify panels from the air, from the satellite, you can say, oh, I know what that system's going to be, or I know that looks like a really new system. Oh, a certain amount of panels, and you can sort of get a bit of acumen about identifying panels. For example, here's Hawaii Airport, we just discussed. I don't even think this is the panels that I showed you prior with the zigzags, because these are all quite flat. And flat panels are actually also pretty good as well, because they get sun throughout the whole day. However, I've got a cool story here from Hawaii Gov Department of Transport. Installation of 3,000 new solar panels at Honolulu Airport. Is that right? I think so. Yep, they've added 3,000 new panels on the garage. Contract with a company called Johnson Controls Inc. 600 milli. Oh, sorry about the font, but yeah, it's red. 600 mil in energy savings, and it's the largest single state contract of its kind in the entire nation. So this is what it looks like, and I'll zoom in. That's a car park. That's a solar car park. So who's seen one of these before? Like, you can see, you probably can't see it because you're underneath it, but yeah, if you've seen it from the sky, you definitely know what you're looking at. And you'll see these everywhere now that you've seen it, right? So it looks like underneath. I'll do a little zoom in a sec. If you look around there, you can see the panels are connected, and there's this thing here. And there it is again. And, oh yeah, you can actually reach up and turn them off. I don't know if you're aware of that, but yeah. So, yeah, 600 milli. If you go to Hawaii Airport soon, you just go up and switch them off. I didn't tell you to do that. No, please don't do that, by the way. So what is that box? Obviously, they should be in a cage. There's complications with that, because it's not high voltage, but it's really high current. They've got to be really close to the panels. That's why they put them right underneath. But you can obviously just jump up and turn them off. So they wouldn't even notice, unless they got Wi-Fi monitoring, right? So that box is the inverter. The inverter can do DC to DC, AC to DC, DC to AC, and all sorts of different things. And yeah, what is the solar system, right? Who knows how a solar system works? Sweet. I'll give you a mini crash course. Silicon, they give you like a little piece of silicon. It's called a seed, that's right. The molten silicon, they just draw it up slowly, and it just like sucks up. Then you get these big ingots. That's the new way. This is the old way, where it was really coarse. They didn't heat it up as much, and you get this chunky looking solar, this chunky looking crystalline silicon. Not as efficient as if you did it when it's pure crystalline. So the new one looks like that. Sand, silicon crystals, thick ingots. Oh yeah, by the way, the reason why they're square is because they're circles, right? It's the same wafers they use for CPUs. They chop it up, and they cut the edges off, so they tessellate. And then it's not actually like a hexagon shape, but if you look, they're kind of curved at the very tippity corners. Exactly the same as doing CPU dies. Chunky looking solar is on the way out. In fact, it's practically extinct, as you can know by the big dark blue going like that. There's some thick ingots you can buy. It's probably not useful. They're really big wafers, to be honest. They're probably CPU wafers, to be fair. And that's what they look like when they're chopped up. If you want to turn it into solar, you just put a bit of boron on one side and phosphorus on the other, and that's it. You make a little electron hole or a positive charge, and if you want to quickly look at it, that's what it looks like. You just basically chuck a phosphorus in the middle of a bunch of silicon. And as you can see, it's not supposed to be there, so there's a little hole. That's all solar is, and they put little lines, they put little bus bars on it, and that's it. So now we're all solar experts. The darker the panel means more concentrated silicon, right? More concentrated, not like that chunky looking thing. More power. So they can get really high power, like 23% power at the moment from a single panel, as opposed to previously the lighter blue panels, 16 to 17%. Now you're kind of understand why they replaced the entire Alamo thing, because they were probably maybe 300 watt panels. And if they replace the whole thing, they get like 440 watt panels. So they get an extra like 50%, even though they had a hailstorm. It's kind of funny. But the best part about that is you can ID these from the satellite imagery now. You're like, oh, cool. You know, if they're cut in half, if you can see little dots between all the tessellations, if there's no tessellation, all sorts of cool stuff. And it's actually a race to the top of efficiency based on making the panels more efficient. So I think SunPower, they have, oh, by the way, the ones underneath, that thing that I showed you previously from the car park in Hawaii Airport in Minecraft, that was a SunPower inverter as well. And I think they're 440 watt panels. But we don't need to worry about panels because they're quite inert, right? There's nothing, they're just like pieces of silicon, glass. So the inverter is the Wi-Fi thing, all right? And by the way, we're not discussing microinverters today, like Enphase. Who's got Enphase? Yeah, sick, a couple. Who's got SunPower? SunPower, oh, sweet. So this is a bunch of very popular inverters. Almost all of them made in China. Oh yeah, SolarEdge, who's got SolarEdge? Okay. Sweet, so SolarEdge, Israeli company, believe manufactured in China. Huawei, definitely not. Manufactured in China, made in China, etc. SMA, German, but also made in China, but also back to Germany, I think. I think they moved it back. But today, some popular ones we're looking at. Huawei, GoodWe, GrowWatt. In particular, Huawei, or Huawei. So the most important features, according to customers, is probably Wi-Fi monitoring. So it's Hagrid. So the question is, can you, considering the change in resolution of Hagrid's face there, can you do damage with Wi-Fi or loss of Wi-Fi, or can people come in through Wi-Fi and attack solar systems, and can you cause catastrophic failure over Wi-Fi? So let's take a look. So what should we look for? Well, let's look for software controlled limits, maybe export limiting code that tells the inverter to cool off a little bit. Maybe we control the fans, turn the fans off, maybe make it explode, or maybe make it fail, make it produce a certain amount of power that's less than the max. Bad code. Maybe there's a bad installation process. Maybe it was incorrectly installed. In particular, with respect to networking, maybe they set up the networking really bad. Or maybe it has a really large single point of failure, such as centralized control of the entire system. And you can imagine, we'll get into that. So NERC apparently is obsessed with cyber now. They're the reliability corporation that manages power, something or other. They released a report, and it was cyber was pretty up there on the list of things. So the 2022 state of reliability. So extreme cold causes load shedding, right? Who's experienced load shedding? It's when the power goes out, anyway, we'll talk about that shortly. So load shedding is pretty rare in most places. In South Africa, it's every single day. And there's a couple of reasons why, we'll talk about that shortly. Cybersecurity, geopolitical, price of things, coal, gas, diesel, whatever. And that incident we talked about earlier, Texas loss event, that was the Alamo one. They referred to it in the NERC report. And unaddressed issues with inverters and reliability poses a risk. And the last one there, new standards under development will mitigate inverter risks. So that's basically saying we don't have the right standards right now, and the reliability is not there, and we aren't mitigating risk properly. Just read it backwards, right? So can we force an inverter to fail based on those inverter fragmentation, or what's the word for it? Those instructions that we just got, not instructions, those pointers. Can we push malware to inverters? Can we push malware to inverter? Oh, we'll think about that. Can we drop a certain percentage of inverters at once? Maybe we could say say Huawei, goes offline for a little bit for some sort of reason. Would the inverter still work? Can we force a weather event? That's not too far-fetched. I don't know who's played Red Alert. We've got the weather control stuff. Huawei, it's one of my favorite companies, jokes. They're not too bad, they're fine. They make cool products. So PV Magazine, really popular. PV means photovoltaics, by the way, and we're all becoming solar experts today. I'm not going to test you on it, but you can go home and be like, I know everything about solar now. NP-type doping and everything. We've already learned that, by the way. Special edition developed in partnership with Huawei. Huawei's a popular brand. They have no idea I'm talking about them today. That's what their inverter looks like. It's called the Sun 2000, and a lot of people get annoyed about it because you think they're talking kilowatts, right? This is a 6 kilowatt inverter, 5 kilowatt inverter, 3 kilowatt inverter. But Huawei decided to call all theirs the Sun 2000, which you would think would be a 2 kilowatt inverter. But then they just said Sun 2000, 5 kilowatt, Sun 2000, 3 kilowatt. It's really annoying for the customers. They're like, oh, I wanted the Sun 4000. That doesn't exist, dude. They've got a really cool energy management app. Kind of looks like Tesla's app, right? You know, a bit of IP borrowing there. Not that Tesla owns that IP anyway, you know. It's probably somewhere else like, I don't know, Rockwell Automation or something. I love dropping names of companies because then they have to watch it later. Trimble, John Deere, lol. Yeah, PV and ESS. ESS, I think, is electrical or energy storage solutions. That's a big farm right there, right? Obviously, it's a JPEG or a 3D render, and there's visual electricity for some reason. But with Huawei, you can live towards the sun, giving life to new homes, or whatever that says. Emma is your smart energy management assistant. Don't know if it's AI, but you've got some sort of bot that manages your energy for you named Emma. Don't need to worry about blackouts anymore. Just enjoy the moment without worrying about power blackouts. And if you get a Huawei inverter, you can start a new green zero carbon life today. By the way, that's solar hot water in the video, in the picture. It's not even solar panels. So. I think the log cabin in the front though is a little bit though. So I don't even know where that is. Safety and reliability, guarantee high PV system safety. Proactive safety, think about that, proactive. What do you think that means, proactive? Probably doing something, right? Probably looking at it, sniffing around. And here's what their diagram is, right? That's panels on the roof, new panels, really dark looking things. You can barely see them. If we zoom in a bit, there's the inverter. That's the Huawei Sun 2000, probably 5 kilowatt. And a Tesla, or discount Tesla, and a battery underneath. I've got one in my bag actually, but the silicon they use in the chips is unsanctionable. It's a high silicon chip, so I think they're like, the chip's like massive, it's like 2 inches, right? And and by the way, it's owned by Huawei as well. They go, against strong signal disruption, communication is never reliable. I believe it's referring to sanctions because they've been sanctioned by ARM, I think, which is kind of complex, or someone's been sanctioned by ARM. But anyway, you know, fine chips. It's high sync or high silicon, fabulous semiconductors from Shenzhen, owned by Huawei, immune to sanctions, which is irrelevant, by the way. But how does it work? So with a residential system, you can download the app called Fusion Solar. You can't get it on the App Store. You've got to get it from the Huawei App Gallery. We'll get into that shortly. But in this diagram, we've got a couple of features to the solar system. We've got Smart String ESS, which is the battery, optimizers, monitoring, backup box, all this stuff. The Sun 2000s again, the dongles, which we're going to look right into, and the energy controller, I don't know what that is, but the power sensor as well. I think that's a Delta power sensor, but rebranded as Huawei. Here's the smart dongles, right? There's a wireless LAN one with a FE, we'll get into that shortly, and a 4G one. That's what they look like. They're just, just a dongle. There's my QR code for it, serial number, registration key. Slides will be up later, you can have a look at it. But if you scan the QR, you get this, serial number, sequential serial numbers, FYI. So the next one is a 606 and 607 and so on. The registration key, don't know, that's probably random, but SSID, the serial number, and the password is change me with a capital C, secure as and I don't think it ever gets changed. So it supports all those cool things, 10 devices per dongle, IP65. So IP65 means it's rated for dust tight, protection against water from a nozzle. So attacks like this, if you squirt it with water. By the way, I don't know if people said this meme before, it's how to keep a coyote away from campsites or homesteads. It's on WikiHow. So funny. So where does the dongle go? The dongle just shoves into the bottom. There's a port underneath it, and it just jumps in the bottom. And here's an example. So that's what it looks like here. So Who sees something odd with this pic right here? There's something odd going on. And it's pretty dark. I apologize. I'll zoom in real quick. There's a blue cable there that traditionally runs Ethernet, and it just comes outside of the house, and that's outdoor Ethernet plugging into your inverter. So if you want to hack this guy, just go up, pull out the inverter lead, and then plug in. So how do you defend against that? Do you put DHCP or DCHP, whatever it is, or do you isolate it, put it on its own VLAN or by MAC address or a VPN? Well, they updated it recently, I believe, to a SIM version. That one there's got a SIM card in it. I'm going to try not to dox anyone in a couple of these photos, but let's have a look. Try not to dox anyone. All the following slides occurred in a game called Minecraft. Yeah, that's the Costco in Minecraft. Is it? Oh, yeah, it is too. The multi-story buildings, so obviously solar's on the roof, right? So the inverter's got to be on the roof. However, it has to be relatively accessible by fire, things like that, right? Firefighters, etc. Because they have to be able to go and turn it off. That's the whole point, is because when there's a fire or something like that, you have to turn it off. Otherwise, you can be electrocuted instantly because pure DC current. Also, like I said before, they have to be close to the inverter, so you can suffer from power loss from the cable resistance. So instead of getting really thick cables, they just put the inverters right near the panels. And then, yeah, but inverters would typically be on the roof, like I said, to avoid fires and prevent allow rapid shutdown. They're generally accessible. So here's a random public library in Hawaii, I think. Just zooming in. By the way, I had to pick public places because I didn't want to get arrested. Not that there's something wrong with this, because it's all publicly available information, but I was joking yesterday, but so are 0 days, right? They're all publicly available, just no one's put the dots together yet, right? So if we look here, I see some cables running around. So those cables will chop off some part of the building, I believe. And if I zoom in a bit on this library in Minecraft, if we zoom in, you can see there's like a bunch of cables, and they typically look like, the corrugated, I don't know what you guys call it, but the corrugated cables generally house the DC solar cables. Thanks, Google. Thanks, G. But yeah, arguments against. Well, what's the point of going up there and hacking into something that's Wi-Fi connected? Well, there's 5G towers up there. Maybe I could just rip one of those off instead and hack into everyone's cell networks or to do something like that. Plus, the Wi-Fi already has Wi-Fi. Sorry. The library's already got free Wi-Fi. You can go and you can already join the Wi-Fi for free. The library maybe is not important to you. But like I said earlier, just read between the lines. It's a library. There's obviously Costco's in Minecraft and all sorts of things like that exist. And there's a lot of systems out there. And I can tell you now, if you zoom in later, you'll be able to see. And what's the next slide? Oh, what's this? It's like a random airport car park as well. Sandy. Oh, yeah, what's this? A couple of slides I shouldn't have left in here. What the heck? What the hell's all that? Oh, it's weird. Oh, shit, hang on. You can see the dongles on those ones. You can reach from the public easement to the dongle. Oh, there's another one there. Oh, shit. Anyway, those were the wrong slides. I've left them in there before. Yeah, the Minecraft graphics got real good. IP65 WLAN, or the other one was FE. I don't know what that means. Someone knows what it means, but it's Ethernet something. So CISA security tip is your wireless router is the primary entrance point for cyber criminals to gain access to all of your passwords, etc. So in the case of Huawei, it's outside. I think this photo is hilarious because there's a perfectly good house right next to them, and they're camping in the yard. It's like the funniest thing I've seen. I know people do it, but it just seems really funny to see it like that. It's like, it's a perfectly good house right next to you. So who's ever installed routers outside the house or dragged anything outside of the house, including CCTV or DVRs? Yeah, sweet. Well, the thing about CCTV or video, things like that, is typically you have a DVR or an MVR, which would segment it off anyway. Not in the case of solar. They're practically plug and play. They're consumer electronic style stuff, and you just jump straight in. Solutions. Well, you could assign an IP for a physical port, but then you'd have to do a lot of work as the installer, and you have to know like D-Link, Toto-Link. I don't even know if you guys have this brand here, but or even Huawei routers as well. CTE, Motorola. Yeah, you can isolate based on MAC addresses, maybe set up a VPN, VLAN, way too much work, right? Because it's just one little house, just one small house, 6 kilowatt, it's nothing, right? However, what about if it's centralized? What if one company has access to all of the inverters of that brand and have a certain percentage of a market in a country? For example, if you want to have a look, you can download the Huawei App Gallery. It is a trusted app. If a system warning appears during installation, press OK. Super recommended. It's actually, you can't find it on the App Store. You have to go to the Huawei App Gallery. By the way, I've got nothing against Huawei. Like, I've just hacked TCL before, and they bought the Honor phone brand from them, lol. Fusion Solar, that's the app. 2 million stores, ad checked, virus checked, manually checked. So you know it's good. You can go in there and set up some requests with user ID 1, username admin, get little successes. That's awkward. Hang on, is that? Oh yeah, that wasn't supposed to be there. So this is a list of permissions that you can have, like PVMS, photovoltaic monitoring system, probably. Something other than that. There's this, by the way, this permission list. You can sign up as a developer and get this as well. And I've also given you my QR code, so you can scan my QR code later as well and add that dongle that I've got to your system, virtual system. It's not a real one. This permission list is like pages and pages long. It's like the stacks of them. And I haven't really had enough time to go through them all because there's hundreds of them. But back to the dongle. This is what the dongle looks like. It's pretty cool. It is, like I said, Ethernet, jack it in there. It's lead-free. And look how big that chip is. That's a real big chip. So, don't know what architecture it is. Probably ARM, but yeah, got a little wireless network there as well. Blurred out the serial number, which doesn't even matter because I gave it to you earlier. Bottom right, you should see some UART, but I think I've circled it out here. Covered in epoxy as typical. Yeah, dual UART, I think. One's probably for the LAN, one's probably for the Wi-Fi. Typically happens, and usually when you log into those ones, like I did it with who's got a Tapo energy socket? Is it one of those wireless Tapo energy sockets? Oh, good. They're terrible. Like you just straight in, and it goes like, your SSID is, and then you're just like, oh, sweet, plain text. Not that they're any secure or anything, but I don't really need to control my sockets with Wi-Fi, but most likely just has an SSID hanging there. That was me just mucking around with it. Does anyone know what A4J8 means? It's like RS485. This guy knows. Can you chat to me later about it? Thanks, man. I couldn't figure it out. I was asking for something because I'm not the inverter, so I'm just plugging it in. The inverter's supposed to tell it something. Anyway, so is this centralized? Well, according to Huawei, it is. So we look there. We've got the master inverter, the dongle, the Ethernet to the router, the internet, and the management system. And they're controlling each other because they've got the 2 arrows, like the double-edged arrows on both sides. Which, by the way, what it means is Huawei has RS485 control over your inverter. So I personally would prefer to self-manage my distributed energy systems rather than use Huawei's managed systems. That's just my opinion. Some people prefer the opposite, like similar with John Deere. They'll prefer John Deere to have their data versus guys like myself. But yeah, final stretch, some threat modeling here. EPRI. Didn't know what they were, but there's a lot of energy's a bit awkward. There's a lot of companies a lot of organizations that are sort of segmented, and they're having a bit of trouble sort of who's responsible for cyber in this part of the thing. But yeah, so the reason is because today's electric grid was not designed for two-way electricity, because solar generates the power, sends it back to the grid. Electricity was typically created to go the other way, just out one way from the generator, as in from the coal-fired plants or whatever, straight to the household, but not the other way. So there's a lot of stress on the grid. And plus the grid has no visibility on all of the inverters and all of the things that are being generated at people's distributed energy systems. Like I said, yeah, large transfers of energy, lots of variability. Like, for example, let's have a look what we got here. Variable, uncertain inverter base. So that's what we're talking about. We've got inverters, which are the solar systems, electricity generational sources, and then we've got within customer facilities. unless they're on the roof or out in the street. Yeah, it creates problems with visibility, decision-making, and rapid action control of organizations or government things that need to manage that. I think I've got here, create new operating challenges. I think that was supposed to be on that side, but car parks as well. So yeah. That was supposed to be on that side, customer facilities or car parks, but yeah. Yeah, so as we migrate, because this is not stopping, by the way, people will eventually have solar. There'll be more solar plants and a lot less centralized, nuclear and things like that. But what it will do, there's benefits to it, right? So in terms of failures, like say there's house fires or things like that, obviously they're bad, but they're localized. Having a small house fire, terrible for the owner. There's probably game theory stuff right now, right? But as opposed to losing the entire solar farm, which would do like exponential amounts of damage to the power supply. So they're localized failures, which is beneficial. So best inverters according to Solar Quotes, which is a large Australian solar quoting company, because like I said, Australia is hell-bent on solar. Fronius, the Austrian one, up first. Huawei is actually last in this, and that's a score of 0. And I believe that's from installers. So that's the installers who have voted to say, what's your favorite inverter as an installation person. Most of them said Fronius, Enphase, SolarEdge, very popular brands here. Huawei got last. I don't even think that's 1. It might be 1 or 0, but so catastrophic activity that I see happening in the industry currently. I currently see centralized control. By the way, the other brands all do the same things. GoodWe, GrowWatt, SunGrow, they're all overseas management. Same way as I think you know what I'm saying, right? It's like having a phone from a certain company that's not located in the country, and then you're at the behest of their decisions. So centralized control of a brand that has a significant grasp on the power grid is kind of concerning to me. I hope it's concerning to you as well. But disabling all of those models all at once would be catastrophic, right? Because, for example, in Hawaii, I keep getting Huawei and Hawaii mixed up, by the way. Not today, which is good, but I'll probably do it later. But so the grid supply, if you drop the 17% of the grid in one go, you're going to experience load shedding. So it's complicated, but basically the grid will drop, and then the existing coal fire, nuclear, whatever, they'll ramp up, and then there's a certain point where they can't, and they'll turn off just to save the infrastructure. Because they keep going, they'll burst the infrastructure, and you'll never get power for a while, a certain amount of time, and you get power out. And this happens in a country called South Africa. So Eskom, I think, is one of the largest, or probably the power distributor in the country. They are experiencing load shedding stage 6. And I met a dude at the airport recently, like 4 days ago at Minneapolis, and he had a John Deere hat on. I was like, oh, do you work for John Deere? I hacked John Deere last year. And he's like, nah, man, I'm here for, anyway, he's doing farming or something, H-2A visa, out in Illinois or Iowa. Shout out to that dude. And I was like, yeah, dude, you guys got load shedding hardcore over there. And he's like, yep. Like every day the power goes out because of things such as a little bit of corruption, but distributor problems, breaker trips, but mainly cable theft. They have a massive problem with cable theft. People just go up, risk their lives, burn stuff, whatever, and then take the cables, because cables are extremely valuable if they're made of copper. Like I said, they get load shedding. And what do they do when they experience load shedding? And I'm pretty sure this happens in California. I swear I saw some articles about something about load shedding last year in California, maybe once or twice. But South Africa burns diesel to meet the demand. So it's quite ridiculous when you think about it, right? Like, who would burn diesel instead of running generators? Well, that's just how it works over there. They don't have a choice, because the grid is in a certain state, a certain amount of people, a certain amount of things happening, extraneous events happen, and then they have to burn diesel to satisfy the load, or just turn everything off. And as we saw before, ready.gov, 2 hours, and everything's spoiled for 2 years, right, whatever it was. And they have a lot of maintenance as well, and generating unit repairs, all this stuff. And also, it causes an undersupply of things such as diesel. So if you're burning all the diesel, what are you going to use to power trucks, right? What are you going to do to all that stuff? Price of diesel goes up. Like, we're talking, massive, right? So if you go on the Exxon website, and this was in a 3-day period, actually. If you go on there now, there's way more updated events. But here's an example. Due to, breakdown of generation 8, whatever. I think it's a nuclear plant, by the way. Where stage 6 load shedding is happening. Coburg nuclear power plant as well. Unit 2 is back in service. Load shedding 3 and 4. And now they're up to 6. Wild, right? So a question for you today is, can you induce load shedding? Who thinks they can induce load shedding? Yeah, sweet. No, I mean, like, I've taught you how to do it, right? Haven't I? So, like, I would probably hack Huawei, get in there, maliciously update all the inverters, tell them to wipe themselves, RM, RF, no preserve root stuff. Yeah, the answer should be clear. Like, I'm not saying go out there and do whatever you want, but it's definitely a risk. Then there's more brands. Maybe of the 70%, maybe in the US it's maybe like 1% Huawei. Small amount, but some places it might be a lot, right? A lot of countries are different to the US, right? US isn't even in this list, but I'll zoom in a bit, and I've sort of categorized it off. Share of total consumption of, I think it's power, obviously, but Australia, 10% is something or other have used solar. Germany, 10% roughly. Honduras, 12.9. So say you knocked out solar in one go. Maybe you hacked all of the solar companies and just went, you're out. That would be pretty catastrophic, right? That would be a distributed energy cyber attack, unaffected by the weather, but still sort of kind of like a hailstorm, but same damage as a hailstorm, but conducted through cyber. Catastrophic consequences, people die, food spoils, Teslas don't stop charging, etc. We might have a problem with, maybe not in the US, but I definitely know in Australia. We have problems with over-reliance on brands such as Huawei, Goodweed, Growwatt, etc. I know in the US, you typically use, like I said, Enphase and SolarEdge, which are more reputable and I believe have local, not sure about Enphase, but I definitely know SolarEdge is more aligned. Trusting in insecure products. NERC released a report, remember, and said, like, we have no idea what's going on with the inverter maintenance and all that stuff. They know that they're vulnerable. They know that they're not satisfied. And I think yesterday, or 2 weeks ago, New South Wales government in Australia actually asked for a recall on all of the SolarX or Solax batteries, and another one, I think it was LG Chem. They did a recall on that. It may cause house fires, so not good. Little to no assessment. I don't think anyone's actually looked at solar inverters that much, or if they have, I haven't seen much of the research on it, or it's not public. I doubt they'll have bug bounties, but they probably will after this. If they don't, I probably wouldn't use them, Don't use them without bug bounties and stuff. If you want to participate and have a look and maybe inspect some of the Huawei or Huawei firmware, you can download the app from the Mega Secure store, from the Huawei store. Then once you get into the app, you go Setup Wizard, create a plant. They're called plants, like power plant, right? Jump in there, and you can scan the QR code that I had. I don't know if it'll work for everyone if we all scan it. But once you scan it, delete it so someone else can have a crack at it. Anyway, once you download it, it goes, updates detected for the inverter and for the dongle. And you end up getting the updates, 30-something megs. And then you get a stack of files here, like Sun 2000 MC. I know you can't read it, but I'll read one out. Sun 2000 LV, low voltage. Fusion Solar, package, stacks of zip files. By the way, this is on my phone. All these zip files that you get from Huawei by scanning it. You can go and inspect that firmware, and that's the live firmware that you'll get on an inverter. So you don't even need an inverter to hack it, right? And with that, if anyone's got any questions, appreciate it. And yeah. Sorry. Who's got questions? Any questions? Dude with the blue shirt. Can you speak up a little bit, sorry? Do you know how fast? Yeah, I can't hear that well. How fast I can update what? The map interface? Oh, okay, right. You mean the one that I can scan them in? Well, it's once you scan it in, it's telling it. It's messed up, right? It's phoning home. The whole thing's centralized. I don't agree with it, but as soon as you scan it in, it's locked up. So basically, if right to repair is your thing, then that is definitely not on the wavelength of right to repair. Fully centralized, no repairs and stuff like that. Completely dangerous. Anyone else? Feel free to just come up as well if you want to ask me a question. I literally can't see any hands. Oh yeah, what's up? I can't hear that one. It's like, yeah. Yeah. The question was about ripple control receivers. I just sort of jazzed up the talk with that. Everyone's probably got one in the room. If you've got high peak and low peak electricity, you'll probably have a ripple control receiver. But yeah, I was just sort of prefacing like, here's some big stuff you can do by attacking energy, and then sort of saying, well, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to get a semi-truck. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. Sort of bringing it back down to the cyber risk rather than the physical attacks that you could conduct. But yes, you can definitely attack a grid, a localized area of the grid because they segment them off, but you can definitely do wave, what are they called again? I just forgot. Yeah, the thing that impulses, I forgot what it's called already. Anyone else? Yeah.
Is it feasible to like bit bang ripple control with that like widespread control?
The question was about, can you bit bang out a ripple control receiver? And I believe you can. I haven't conducted research on it because I don't want to destroy the grid. But I definitely know that if you hook up to the grid and you can sort of, I think they use like offset motors. Like there's like a motor with like, you know, like motors, there's like an offset one and it goes like that and it ripples it. I don't know, but it's definitely possible. I don't know the cost and I don't know how to do it, but it's someone can definitely do it. I would honestly think it's an act of terrorism if you did it, but just don't get caught in Minecraft. Yeah. Does that work? Is anyone else? Shit. Sweet. All right. Thanks.